Welcome to another episode of the Embracing Joy podcast. And I have with us our very special guest, Dr. Susan Zink. Thanks for joining us
Hello.
today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Our topic today is so important. It's about how high achieving women can find joy without burning out. I think we are in a time where many people are burning out, especially high achieving professionals. And we want to learn how can we achieve joy without burning out. So thanks for joining us for this important topic.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk with you about it.
So let me tell you all about Dr. Zink. She brings over 16 years of expertise as a board certified adult psychiatrist. She has a special focus on reproductive and integrative psychiatry. She's passionate about improving women's mental health and is deeply knowledgeable about traditional psychiatric medicine and research backed natural and complementary interventions. She's a mother of three daughters, an experience that continuously deepens her connection with this work that she does.
Yes.
So, it's just an honor having you. And before we get started, we'll play our warm up game, Convergence.
Okay.
So, on the count of three, close your eyes and say the first word that comes to mind.
Okay.
One, two, three.
Burnout.
Beach. Oh, okay. Okay, something that connects burnout and beach on the count of three that comes to your mind. One, two, three.
Prevention.
Peace somehow. Peace, intervention. Okay.
Prevention.
Prevention and peace. Okay, something that connects those two. Try to be broad. So one, two, three. Time,
Sleep.
sleep. Oh, okay. Sleep. Is a good one. Sleep and time, something that connects those two. It can be broad. One, two, three. Energy. I don't know.
I can't even think of anything. I'm thinking like 8 hours.
8 hours.
Energy. That's a good one.
Okay. Yeah, so it's just to get our juices flowing
Mhm.
and to kind of say the first thing that comes to mind. Yeah, so I think we'll end it there.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So with that being said, let's jump right into our questions.
Sounds good.
Um, okay. So doctor, with your work with high achieving women, especially in the particular context of reproductive and hormonal health, how do you help them recognize when stress and burnout are not just part of the job, but they're disconnecting them from their joy and well-being?
Such an important question and thing to raise awareness about. I think, first of all, I'll just say that burnout is optional. So I don't think burnout has to be a part of any job. Stress can certainly be a part of any job, but stress is different than burnout, and stress can be good or bad. So you can have bad kinds of stress, like a stress fracture, right? So that's not good. But there's also good kinds of stress. For example, like when you lift heavy weights, that's a good kind of stress that is actually building up your body and your bones and your strength and your health. But then there are kinds of stress that actually sort of tear you down, like the equivalent to a stress fracture. And
Mhm.
when there's too much of that, the kind of stress that tears you down, I think that can lead to burnout, which also, the definition of burnout is sometimes a little bit different depending on who you talk to, but in
Okay.
general, burnout, I think, refers to when you're just over, there's not enough of you to go around. You are overstretched, you're over committed, doing too much individually, and become exhausted by all of the demands that are placed on you. And so I think that part is optional. Now, of course, there's also sort of this moral injury concept behind burnout, especially in like
Mhm.
physicians, where oftentimes physicians' value and expertise is diminished or dismissed. And I think that leads to some of the burnout because we work so hard, right? We do so much in terms of time and attention and energy that we give to the profession and to patients and to a lot of other aspects of medicine. And when you add in feeling undervalued, all of those things can come together to lead to burnout, which often makes people feel like they just kind of want to quit because it's too much. So I think that burnout doesn't have to be a part of a job. And when you recognize that there's too much of that sort of bad kind of stress, then it's important to start addressing that before you get to burnout.
Hmm. Thanks for answering that question in a lot of ways and providing us some definitions about what burnout and the types of stress that there are, and recognizing that are good types of stress that help build versus this type of stress that breaks. So, with that being said, how can professionals kind of move beyond just managing stress and instead actually cultivate more balance and joy and resilience?
Also such an important question. And the first of all, recognizing, is this an adaptive stress or is this a stress that is making things worse for me? So if you're, a more maybe helpful metaphor is that if you're thinking about like the good kinds of stress, like let's say you have an important presentation or something, that can be a good stress leading up to it, where the sort of nervousness or the anxiety leading up to something important like that motivates you to do a good job so that you can educate professionally or come across professionally or knowledgeable or like an expert. And so that can be an adaptive type of stress that motivates you to do a good job. But when the stress becomes harmful or maladaptive, that's the type of stress that maybe high achieving professionals or women might feel like they don't want to do it, or they have a constant sense of dread or apprehension, and that keeps them from doing a good job or keeps them from showing up how they would like to show up. And so I think recognizing the difference is really important. And if you notice that you have that sort of constant feeling of dread, or you're unmotivated, or you aren't showing up how you normally would, or how you would like to, how you imagine you would like to, then investigating that more about why that is, I think, is really important. And that might be professionally or with friends or with other high achieving people. But it can be important to take a step back and kind of look at a bird's eye view to investigate and examine what is going on and what would need to change so that you can move into the type of motivating energy that can be more adaptive and that can help you achieve more of what you want, more of what you want to achieve in a way that feels healthy.
Mhm. So, with that being said, success looks different to different people. And what has your personal and professional journey taught you about redefining success in a ways that provide greater fulfillment?
It's all interconnected, right? So of course we all probably have our professional lives and our personal lives, and maybe some of us are mothers and spouses, and we have all kinds of roles in our lives. And sometimes one of those roles can become prioritized or prioritized too much, so that the other important parts of our lives they're not given as much attention as maybe we would like. So I think recognizing that you can prioritize your professional life and you can prioritize your personal life, maybe your life as a mother or your life as a professional, and that both of those things can exist at the same time. But maybe one is prioritized at one time and the other is prioritized at another time. And that might be even just in different times of the day. Like if you're at work, maybe you're prioritizing work, and when you're at home, maybe you're prioritizing your family life. Where I think a lot of high achieving professional women have trouble is that they feel like they have to be doing everything all at once,
Mhm.
and they're at work and trying to also prioritize their families or some other personal issue, or they're at home and they're trying to prioritize work or they're at home. So I think something really important to do is to carve out the time to prioritize things other than work and profession. So if you have, for example, let's say you have a podcast book, right? You're out of podcasters, you schedule that interview or you schedule a work meeting, and that's Tuesday at 10 o'clock, and that's on your schedule, and you commit to that and you go to that in the same way that you commit to that time slot and respect that other person. Treat yourself like that. So if it's important to you to get some movement in or exercise, and you say at 8 a.m. on Tuesday I am going to the gym or I'm going to go on a walk outside, you put it on your calendar and you commit to that time for yourself and respect yourself just like you would respect somebody else. And so I think when we're doing so much, having a calendar and having a schedule and actually putting things on the calendar and sticking to them for your own good is just as important as sticking to those commitments for other people, if not more important. So don't if someone wants to have a meeting with you when you have scheduled your time for yourself, you don't reschedule that time for yourself, just like you wouldn't reschedule another important meeting for something else.
Yeah, definitely prioritizing that self-care is important, definitely. So with that being said, what are the 3 tips that you would give someone listening today that's really struggling with identifying if their stress is adaptive or not, and they just want to move forward to a place where they have more fulfillment?
First, I think pay attention to how you feel. So if you're waking up every day feeling a sense of dread, or you have that sort of like heaviness in your chest or your stomach, and each day kind of feels like that, I think that's important to pay attention to. I think it's a signal that something is off and might be going on. Basic things like, are you getting enough hydration? Are you nourishing yourself adequately? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you getting some movement in? All of those things are often overlooked or, pushed aside when we're busy women, especially as we get into midlife when we have so much on our plates. Those are things that we all know and understand are sort of the basic foundation for keeping ourselves well, but often we sacrifice so that we can kind of get it all done. So I think that's the second thing is those the basic foundation of self-care becomes especially important as we get older and there's just more on our plates, like children to take care of, careers to take care of, family, sometimes aging parents. Often when we get to midlife, we're in that sandwich generation. So recognizing how important that always is, but how much more, even more important, I think it becomes when we enter that sort of midlife perimenopause period. So that's the second thing is just go back to the basics, right? Go back to the basics and maybe just pick one that you can improve on and then build on that. So that's super important. And then the third thing I would say is think about what fulfills you, think about your why and what your purpose is. So if you are, doing really well in your career, let's say, or you are really successful professionally, how does that feel for you? Is that what you hoped for? Is that what you hope to achieve? Is there something else in your life that would give you purpose and meaning that you are having to sacrifice because of all these other commitments and priorities? And if there is something that is fulfilling for you or gives you more purpose, can you find some time to commit to that a little bit more, spend a little bit more time on that? Because I think that those are things that also can help us not get to the point of burnout where we're so focused on one thing that it just becomes too overwhelming at some point.
Mhm. Thank you for that. I think like you provided a lot of insight there about how to recognize when the stress is maladaptive or when the stress is like when you feel like when you feel that you are dreading waking up or dreading going into work or feeling overcoming that sense of dread by looking at your self-care and prioritizing your self-care, and then also looking at your why and remembering your why is so important. So thank you for highlighting those things and more.
Absolutely.
With that being said, we're now on our wrap up questions. Who is a model for joy in your life and why?
I always say my kids are a model for joy because I just witnessing the joy that they have over things that are so simple, and not simple in a bad way, simple in a good way. Just watching their joy over something like the squirrels that play in our backyard, right? Like we have these two squirrels that love to chase each other and play with each other. And they will say, Mom, come here and look at this, these two squirrels, look at them. And they're so excited about those simple things. And I think that really is grounding and really helps us to remember how much beauty there is, how much can be so interesting and joyful when you're a kid and you haven't been stuck on social media for decades, right? So I think that seeing the joy from a child's perspective reminds us to go back and just remember those simple things and how much beauty that there is that just exists naturally in the world. I don't know that there's anything more pure than that. So I think that's really it's a good reminder.
Mhm. That's a great reminder. So, if you were baking a cake of joy, a metaphorical cake of joy, what would the top 3 ingredients be?
The top three ingredients for me personally: quality time with friends and family where we really feel connected. Travel is a big thing for me. And I think also it's hard to put into words, but feeling a sense of purpose for having contributed in a positive way to society.
Mm, well, that's great. And you do you have any icing on your cake?
Icing. Ooh. Is there icing? I don't know. I think maybe the travel might be the icing.
Mhm.
Extra
Yeah,
travel.
travel. Well, that's wonderful. I think your answers are very telling that, you have a sense of purpose in the work that you do
Mhm.
and with the women that you serve. So, with that being said, if our audience wanted to learn more about your services and what you do, how can they find that information?
Yes, thank you. So there's a lot of information on my website, which is elemental-integrative-psych.com. I won't spell it out. Maybe just put it in the show notes.
Put it in the show.
Yeah, thank you. And I also have an Instagram, which is elemental_integrative_psych. I'm on Facebook at Elemental Integrative Psychiatry. I'm also on LinkedIn, just under Dr. Susan Zink, MD, or maybe it's just Susan Zink, MD, but I'm also on LinkedIn, so you can find me there too.
Okay. Thank you. So, if you're listening, please like, share this episode with a friend. Make sure to subscribe so you'll be notified of the upcoming episodes and have a joyful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.